Good evening. I'm Melissa Ridgen with your APTN News Weekend. Well, it's been a wild week for the Assembly of First Nations. Just last Friday, the AFN Executive Committee and National Board of Directors voted to suspend National Chief RoseAnne Archibald, effective immediately. They also say that she will be barred from attending the annual General Assembly next month. Well, according to the AFN, an investigation is underway into 4 complaints against Archibald. But the National Chief says those are attempts to silence her, and she's calling on a forensic audit of the AFN. Archibald said earlier this week her suspension and the denial of entry to next month's Chiefs Assembly is, quote, a means to intimidate, punish, and silence me to avoid any discussion on the potential misuse of public funds by the AFN. Now, the AFN has not responded to requests for comment. We sat down with National Chief RoseAnne Archibald. She says she will be at the General Assembly next month.
I'm definitely attending the AGA. The regional chiefs don't have the ability under the charter to actually ban me from attending. In fact, they don't have the right to actually even suspend me. And so that's what we're going to reveal more about in the coming days. Now, in terms of that resolution, it has been ruled out of order. The AFN Secretariat itself, they will tell you that they've done a legal review of this resolution on putting aside the election, and it's not correct. You know, there's a period where you can appeal the election, and it's 2 weeks after the election. You have that time to appeal and say, I think that there's been some problems with the election, and nobody did that. And now suddenly, almost a year later, it's coming forward, and you have to wonder, why is that? It's because I keep digging, Melissa. I keep asking these hard questions. I keep finding things that I am questioning and calling out as corruption in the AFN. And a lot of the things that have been happening to me are about silencing me. And particularly, you know, I just wanted to say again, as the first woman national chief, I yet again made, you know, ironically, another history by being the first national chief to purportedly be suspended or to have somebody try to suspend me. Yeah. But, you know, the other thing about being a woman in leadership is that it's a different style of leadership. I have a different way of approaching the issues, and most of the old boys don't understand that. They're used to a certain kind of centralization of power and the national chief, you know, taking all the credit for all the work that's happening. I don't do that. I know that Regional Chief Cindy Woodhouse did great work on the AIP. I know that Regional Chief Gerald Antoine did great work on the papal visit and continues to do great work. So anytime regional chiefs are doing this great work, I'm holding them up, I'm lifting them up. And the other thing about being an assertive and strong woman is you're often accused of bullying. Right. You know, when a man is strong, oh, he's got good leadership. Oh, he's really great. When a woman is strong, oh, no, we can't have that. She's a bully. Yeah. And so the misogyny within the AFN is real. There's a real patriarchal, colonial, corporate agenda that's happening within the AFN. And that's what I've been talking about that has to change. You know, one of the things that somebody said to me is, why do you want to dissolve the AFN Secretariat? Well, it's not just that. It's about creating a new structure that is based in our culture, our language, our traditions, our 7 sacred teachings. And so when a person is encased in a structure that is healthy, then they behave healthy. If a person is encased in a colonial, patriarchal, corporate system, then they behave corporately. And so we need a new structure. The 200 staff that have been doing amazing work at the AFN will simply be moved into the new structure. It's not about like, you all have to go, because that's absolutely not acceptable. It's about creating a healthier structure from which they can do amazing work, even better work than they're doing now, if you can believe it.
That was just a bit of the interview that we did. That entire 13-minute conversation can be found on our website, aptnnews.ca. You can watch it all there. Well, it's a major step toward justice for off-reserve Indigenous children taken from their families and placed in non-Indigenous care during the Millennium Scoop. Federal court approved a class action lawsuit against the government of Canada. Lawyers for families and children taken between 1992 and 2019 announced that the class action will continue. It's going to cover status and non-status Indigenous families who live off reserve. Cheyenne Stonechild is the lead representative plaintiff. She says she spent just one day with her family since she was taken.
It feels incredibly surreal to be here, and I have to say I'm very humbled by this decision. As foster kids, we don't usually get very many breaks in life, but this really feels like one. And finally, I feel validated. I'm a young Cree woman and a survivor of what has been called the Millennium Scoop. Authorities removed me from my mother when I was 8 years old, and I spent the rest of my childhood tossed between at least 15 different foster homes and group homes. I spent precisely one day with someone from my family group. No one wants to be a statistic, but those of us who become that statistic don't usually have a say.
The claims have not been proven in court. The federal government reached a $40 billion agreement in principle for on-reserve youth and their families last year. Well, a new report by the Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth says on average every 2 hours a child is exposed to violence in their home. With more on that, here's Daryl Stranger.
I knew that it was high, but I was surprised to see that there were almost 2,000 police-reported incidents of IPV in a single month, involving almost 700 children in our province.
Acting Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth Ainsley Crone says it's the first report of its kind, following 671 children exposed to intimate partner violence, or IPV, in April of 2019. Over the 1 month period, there were 1,943 police-reported cases of IPV. 342 of those were witnessed by at least one child or youth.
We originally wanted to do a 1-year retrospective case study, but what we found is that when we started looking at the numbers, that the sheer volume of numbers in our province was just simply too high for us to be able to we didn't have enough resources to go through all of those police-reported incidents. And that in itself is a really shocking finding, that violence is so prevalent and so common in our province that we just couldn't even look at a single year.
82% of the children who witnessed IPV were Indigenous. The report contains a story by a First Nations youth named Louise. She recalled police coming to her home and said officers did not acknowledge her. She felt scared she may be taken away from her parents, and she didn't receive help for her trauma until she went into the child welfare system.
Like the numbers really are should be a wake-up call for all of us, that even though we know that it's happening, like the numbers are very clear that it is a significant issue that needs significant examination and investments to change the course for some of those families.
The report says early childhood exposure to IPV has been associated with mental health issues later in life, causing symptoms of depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Trevor Morasti works with the Youth Ambassador Advisory Squad, who works with the Advocate's Office. He witnessed IPV as a youth and hopes the report can lead to more support and hope.
No matter how dark the days seem or how alone you feel, there's always going to be people there for you. You just got to keep your head up and just ask for help when you feel at your lowest, because there are people there and you're not alone.
The Advocate made recommendations that include culturally safe supports for Manitoba children exposed to IPV.
Now what we do is we turn to recommendations compliance work, which is a really important aspect of the Advocate for Children and Youth Act, and it allows the advocate to track compliance with recommendations made under that act and to track that publicly, so that the government has a responsibility and an obligation to respond to our office when we're saying provide us with the evidence of what you're doing to enact these recommendations.
The report will be ongoing with no set timeline in place. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Well, now to BC, where a mother is making a desperate plea for any information on the whereabouts of her 20-year-old daughter. APTN's Tina House has that.
She's in trouble. I know that. That's the feeling I have. I have a feeling my daughter's in trouble. It is not just her playing hide and seek. It's not her avoiding anyone. If she struggles, she just calls out to close a missing persons. It's that simple. But my child has money in the bank, so it's been sitting there.
Natasha Harrison is worried for the safety of her daughter, Tatiana Harrison. The 20-year-old was last seen on surveillance video from this Royal Bank, located in Vancouver's downtown Eastside on Main and Hastings. On March the 23rd, she can be seen entering the bank and withdrawing money, and since then, her bank account has not had any activity.
Well, it's the last image on camera.
Natasha says she encountered red tape that prevented Vancouver police from actually beginning to start the search because her last known residence was in Surrey.
And they pushed the file over to Surrey. I fought with them the whole time, and it was 20 days to 22 days that it was with Surrey the whole time, me fighting, and it took 20 days for them to check that camera on Main and Hastings. And they told me they pushed it because of jurisdiction, because she last resided in Surrey, but I want to know why it took them that long to check that camera.
Since her daughter's disappearance, Natasha has been searching every day, trying to find answers.
Excuse me. Hi, I'm actually looking for my daughter. I was wondering if you guys have seen her around here. Her name's Tatiana. She's 20 years old. Here, do you want to take one? I'll give that to you.
Yeah, I'll take one. Yeah, no, sorry, I've seen her. But,
Yeah.
But despite people having said they have seen her, everyone has said they haven't seen her in over a month. So for Natasha, it's another dead end. But she is determined to talk to anyone and utilizing all her resources she has to find Tatiana. Butterflies in Spirit have also joined in the search after Vancouver police asked them to help. VPD also printed the 500 posters being put up today.
They were concerned because there was no action on her bank account, and they had footage and or pictures of her last known whereabouts, or the last place she was caught on camera was at a Royal Bank, and there's a person with her in that video.
Vancouver police have released this image of a man in the Royal Bank with Tatiana that day. They are asking him to come forward if he has any information about Tatiana. They also released this statement and how her file was handled. Initial findings from the investigation indicated that Tatiana was last seen in Surrey. As such, Surrey RCMP assumed conduct of the investigation. When investigators discovered evidence that Tatiana had used a bank machine in Vancouver at the end of March, Vancouver police took over the investigation and has continued to gather evidence. This is an active and ongoing investigation. We're concerned for Tatiana's safety.
This is her favorite hair color. She'll always revert back to the auburn. And yeah, that's my daughter.
If you have any information on the whereabouts of Tatiana Harrison, you are asked to call the police. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
We need to take a short break, but still ahead, more troubles for the Thunder Bay Police Service. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thunder Bay Police Chief Sylvie Hoth is facing 3 allegations of misconduct. The Ontario Civilian Police Commission publicized the notice of hearing on Hoth earlier this week. Lays out 3 counts of alleged misconduct after an investigation. Count 1 relates to her conflict of interest for not transferring or terminating a criminal investigation into Thunder Bay Police Board Chair Georgianne Morisseau. She is also alleged to have deceived or attempted to deceive police board members in 2 additional counts. Hoth announced this morning in a media statement that she will retire next June. We reached out to Hoth via the Thunder Bay Police email, but we've not heard back. In northern BC, the Clayton First Nation made a public declaration on Indigenous Peoples Day that they are the rights and title holders of their territory, and they say that any resource projects by the federal and provincial governments must have their consent before they can proceed. APTN's Lee Wilson reports.
At a press conference, Clayton First Nation declared that they've never ceded their territory through treaty or war, which is located in Prince George and surrounding areas. Then they shared messages for the BC and federal governments, affirming who they are.
We are Clayton people. We are of Dekalb origin from the confluence of the two rivers, the Nechako River, meaning with strong undercurrents, and the Tletako, Fraser River, meaning Big Mouth River. We are the sovereign inhabitants and the traditional owners and occupiers and users of our vast unceded territories and resources.
The nation says they've been working on this declaration with their legal team for 5 years. They hope to build a brighter future for their members, one where any extraction of resources from its territory does not happen without their free, prior, and informed consent.
Lheidli T'enneh are entering a new period of relationship building with the province of BC and the federal government of Canada. It is important that they know where the Lheidli T'enneh First Nation stands on the issue of land ownership, title, and rights.
We contacted both federal and provincial governments for a comment, but did not receive a response before airtime. Chief Darlene Logan says they have a great relationship with the regional government in Prince George. And this declaration is about moving forward with government, industry, and businesses. She hopes other First Nations across Canada make their own declarations.
You don't need a treaty to do this. This is us saying we said no to the treaty twice. Now this is time for the government to take action and that this is our territory.
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Prince George.
The Fort McKay First Nation in Northern Alberta held their first Treaty Day celebration in person since 2019. APTN's Chris Stewart was there. He brings us some of the goings-on for that three-day event.
I turn back the years, sing me back home before I die.
The 2022 Fort McKay Treaty Days has been 3 years in the making. With COVID having stopped in-person celebrations, now the community has a chance to meet up again, trade stories face-to-face, and take part in a multitude of events. Chris Johnson is the CEO of the Fort McKay First Nation.
We got 3 days full of festivities. We've got canoe races, fish fries, bannock making. We're opening ourselves up back out to the community, and we've got all of our friends from McMurray coming in. We've got a great turnout here.
It's okay. So if you pinch it with your fingers, you'll do that.
There were archery lessons and demonstrations, a softball tournament, hot meals, music, and dancing. Conservative Member of Parliament Layla Goodrich was here to volunteer and help out. She says being back in person is needed after 3 years of not having the celebrations where you can see and touch each other.
Especially now after we've had a couple years of not being able to connect with one another, being able to get together, being able to break bread and share stories is just so incredibly important. It's been wonderful.
Those who attended had a great time.
Excellent food, excellent entertainment. A lot of people came, so and there's going to be a concert, so they'll probably be filled up tonight.
It was really fun. I really enjoyed the fear factor, and it was really gross, but really fun because I won, and I like winning.
Stephanie Harp is a singer and is from Fort McKay. She performed on stage Saturday evening along with Streetheart and Big Wreck. Harp says there's no feeling like being back home.
Oh yeah, lots of visits, lots of love. So I'm just feeling so good being home. Any chance I get, it's nice to be back.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Fort McKay, Alberta.
We need to take one more quick break, but we still have news ahead for you, so stay with us. Slashback is an Inuit film made in Nunavut, and it hits wide release in Canada pretty quick here. It's getting rave reviews on film festival circuits and is unlike anything that has come before it in Nunavut. Our Kent Driscoll talked to the writer and co-writer Nyla Inuksuk and found out why you just do not mess with girls from Pang.
This is Panictone, Nunavut, located on the eastern shore of Baffin Island and home to almost 1,500 people. It's one of Nunavut's most stunning communities, hands down. Pang is also the setting and the heart of Slashback, a sci-fi horror buddy film where four best friends and the cutest boy in Pang have to work together to stop an alien invasion. Making a full feature film in a remote northern community is just like trying to mount any large project in a small Nunavut community. For one, where were the 60-person crew going to live in a town short on housing and hotel rooms? You rent out the two schools.
And we basically asked if it would be possible for our crew to move in for the summer. And we ended up shipping up about 60 beds and mattresses and turning all of the classrooms into bedrooms, makeshift bedrooms for our crew and cast. And so they were living essentially with a roommate, 2 people per classroom.
The fictional Pang resonates as the real Pang. The small details are there for any Nunavumute to notice. That took attention to detail.
If we needed to make new curtains, we were buying the material from the co-op with the fabric that they had there. The girls, and same with wardrobe as well. If they needed sneakers, we were getting them, the sneakers that they would get at the co-op. The bikes. At one point, there's a pile of bikes, and I was a little worried. It's like, all the kids have the same bikes, but it also is true that in town, all the teenagers have the same bike, and they just have to put their initials on it because that's the bike that's for sale at the co-op. So it's okay that all the kids have the same bike.
The 4 young actresses at the core of the story show how small communities forge close friendships.
I think that when you're that age, you're trying to figure out who you are and where you fit in, and your friends are a big part of that.
Slashback is rare for Inuit film. It isn't a serious documentary or a look at Inuit history. It is a contemporary adventure. Inuksuk values those other films, so much so that she questioned herself.
And I kind of was like, oh, should I be doing that kind of work? And is this somehow less important? And I think that, it is different, but also it's important to see ourselves in movies and comic books and representations of us kicking butt and having fun.
No spoilers, but we can confirm butt is kicked and fun is had. Slashback hits theaters and digital this Friday, Canada-wide.
Let's go hunting.
Kent Driscoll, APTN National News.
I love it.
That is definitely on my watch list. I hope you find it where you're living too. That is a wrap on your weekend news. I'm Melissa Ridgen. We're always grateful that you join us. Have a great rest of the weekend.